Hello and welcome, dear plant and art lovers! I am so excited to present to you our plant of the month for May, the charming hyacinth. Before we start sketching, we'll take a closer look at its botanical features. Learning to observe the plant properly is key to drawing it realistically. So, let's dive into this wonderful plant together and get to know it better before putting pencil to paper. First, let me show you how I grew these hyacinths from bulbs. As you can see, the first tiny shoots have already started to emerge, a sure sign that the plant has woken up from its winter rest. It's hard to believe that such a small sprout will soon become a full-blooming plant. This particular sprout was the first one to appear and is also the largest. And here are the others, still small and just beginning their journey. I planted bulbs of different varieties and colors, which is probably why they're developing at different speeds. A little botanical surprise. Now, 3 weeks have passed and look how much they've grown. Isn't it incredible? I absolutely love observing plants as they develop. There is something truly magical about watching life unfold. If you look closely, you can already see the flower cluster forming in the center, still green for now. I can't help but wonder, what color will my first hyacinth bloom into? Another week went by and finally the first flower has opened. It turned out to be a deep, rich blue, absolutely stunning. It hasn't fully bloomed yet, but you can already tell how beautiful it's going to be. Honestly, I can't wait for it to fully open, so I can start drawing it. And now a little celebration, all my hyacinths are in bloom. 2 more weeks have passed and they've opened almost at the same time. Let me turn the pot around so you can see each one. They came out in 3 lovely colors, pink, yellow and white. I find it fascinating how the varieties differ slightly in the shape and arrangement of their flowers. This makes observing and studying them even more enjoyable. Now let's take a closer look at the botanical structure of the hyacinth. This will help us capture its character accurately in our drawings. The first thing we notice is the flower cluster, which consists of many individual blossoms. If you look from above, you'll see that the uppermost flowers are still in bud form, a small but important detail I'll definitely include in my sketch. And here is another example using the yellow hyacinth, which hasn't fully bloomed yet. You can see the buds hiding between the leaves while the central flowers are already open. Now let's study the flower in more detail. Even though each one is slightly different, they all share the same basic structure. A typical hyacinth flower has 6 petals that are fused at the base, but sometimes you can find flowers with 8 petals too. What's consistent is that the petals always come in an even number. To make sure we don't miss any important details, I've created a cheat sheet table with the key botanical features of the hyacinth. If you'd like to explore plants more deeply, I've shared these tables on my Patreon, so you can download them for free as soon as you subscribe. Let's identify the flower type now. On my chart, I've illustrated the most common flower shapes. For the hyacinth, the petals form a tubular shape called tubulate. The base is slightly swollen and then the petals flare outward. Inside the flower, you'll find 5 stamens and 1 pistil. They're small, but if you look closely, you can spot them. And one more detail, the ovary in hyacinths is inferior. This is a great feature to note for your illustration. Now let's study the flower cluster as a whole. The yellow hyacinth shows this perfectly. There is a 6 central stalk with individual flowers attached to it on very short stems. In the chart, you'll see this type of inflorescence is called a raceme. Each flower has its own little stalk connecting to the main stem. Understanding this will help us draw the plant correctly and realistically. Next, let's talk about the leaves. One fun observation. Many bulb plants have very similar leaf structures. For hyacinths, the leaf veins run parallel, a pattern known as a parallel venation. I've included these in the chart too. The leaf shape is linear, long and narrow, one of the simplest forms. Also, the leaf tips often have a gentle curved twist, another typical trait for bulb plants. The leaf edge is smooth, called entire, and the tip is usually accurate, pointed. Since hyacinth leaves grow directly from the bulb, the leaf attachment is decurrent, meaning the leaf base extends down along the stem. You can clearly see this on the actual plant. And finally, let's look at the bulb and roots. Here is how they look once removed from the soil. At this early stage, the shoot has barely emerged, which is actually the perfect moment to plant the bulb in the ground. As I mentioned before, the hyacinth is a bulb plant, and this is a key feature I plan to highlight in my future botanical illustration. So, using just two simple reference tables, we've explored the essential botanical structure of the hyacinth, and all this knowledge will help guide us when we start drawing. Now it's time for me to return to my botanical sketchbook and begin planning the composition for my new hyacinth illustration. I'll start with the sketch and line work. By the way, I share the full process from the first sketch to the final artwork on my Patreon. If you'd like to follow along and dive deeper into botanical drawing, you're more than welcome to join. That's all for today. I'll see you in the next video, where I'll be sharing the final illustration of the hyacinth. See you soon!